Hi, I'm Toby Rosewater, and before I start reading, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context. This was an essay I worked on over many months, along with many other things. It grapples with themes of artistic struggle, divinity, perspective, watching greatness, and loneliness. As this reading excludes footnotes, before we start, I would like to read footnote number 3, as I think it embodies the essay quite well. It's the feeling of getting close to greatness that is so addicting, to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and yet that same sense of wanting can morph into an ugly withdrawal the minute we realize the thing we're chasing is, in many ways, simply an illusion. Without further ado, Roy Halladay as Divine Intervention. Thick sheets of muggy Floridian air linger as you carefully descend flights of tired stadium stairs. It's slowly becoming that time of day, an hour when any and all sunlight is waned except for a sharp, precise gleam glaring through a handful of gaps in the outfield stands. Above the shimmer, the sky is a fading shade of blue, a soft hue that sharpens the world's vibrant colors without washing them clean. Below, the ballpark's concrete steps slice a quiet expanse of sporadically filled orange seats, culminating in the melancholy comfort of your own two armrests. You put your drink down, balance your box of dinner on the flipped-up seat beside you, and peer down. There, deep in right field, the shape of Phillies pitcher Roy Halladay comes into focus. He seems to be in his own world, not a world of discontent, but a headspace of immense composure, the kind of daydream only experienced by few and envied by many. As the last of the sunset fades, the stadium lights flicker on, one by one. They cast a bright, artificial glow over the field, illuminating the night sky. It is May 29th, 2010, the evening when an unsuspecting audience of baseball patrons will watch Miami Marlins hitters reach for the hand of God and whiff in the face of a baseball deity. An unspoken challenge comes with writing about a great artist. As a writer, one has an obligation to try to meet that person at their peak and rise to the challenge of describing their genius in one's own mortal words. If done well, the piece reads like a clash of two heavyweights. Each word competes with the artist it speaks of while reinstating its subject matter's genius. With that thought, I'll formally introduce Roy Halladay. Halladay pitched for both the Philadelphia Phillies and Toronto Blue Jays. He's the type of guy who always seemed to grab everyone's attention, even if he never asked for it. Off the field, he was a family man, soft-spoken and introverted. Yet, his long and lean 6'6" frame gave him few places to hide. Similarly, when on the mound, he worked quietly, methodically deploying his arsenal of fastballs, cutters, curveballs, and changeups, leaving hitters drenched in puddles of desperation. He didn't need to talk. His pitching did that for him. It's the second inning in Miami. Halladay jogs out after striking out 2 and grounding out 1 in the first. He gets his first strikeout of this frame on a heater down the middle. The hitter walks away frustrated, not at the pitcher, not at the ball, but solely at himself. See, Halladay, especially by 2010, was anything but a power arm. Yes, his fastball could still soar at 95 miles an hour, but with little, if any, spin. Halladay's fastball was more of a distraction, a straight shot thrown at the hitter to catch them off guard. That's what this first out was. A hitter's failure to hit a sideshow, a hitter's failed attempt to avoid becoming the sideshow, and a hitter's demotion from his full name down to just the hitter. Throughout the course of a ball game, the pitcher's mound is where a spectator's eye wanders, rests, and focuses. Yet, few things are more isolating than throwing atop its confines. Pitching is one of few positions where a team game becomes a singular assignment, and hence one of a handful that can truly carve, for better or worse, the images of mortal men. Moreover, for a pitcher, there is something openly lonely about the position. Standing in the center of the diamond, alone, the feeling that everyone is watching, but nobody can help. It's pitcher versus hitter, until inevitable failure. For me, it's hard to find the allure hidden underneath the pressure and solitude of pitching. But I think for some, the pitcher's mound is accidentally a safe haven for the quiet soul. It's a place of chaos and climax for the onlooker, yes, but it is also a great invitation for those in search of divine solitude, desolate to the point of comfort. The strike zone is the canvas in which bottled up, unspoken emotions can pour, and the mound is the nexus from which it all flows. In that sense, pitching is the ultimate form of self-expression in sport, serving as a unique type of spiritual intervention for those in search of adrenaline. Any promise of an uneventful night has long unraveled by this point. Heading into the 7th inning, Halladay is not allowed a single earned run, base runner, or hit for that matter. Against all odds, he's managed to maintain a perfect game. By this point, though, he's running out of gas. Emblematic of this is a 78-mile-an-hour clunker thrown down the heart of the plate. The ball is well hit, and, from the broadcast perspective, it offers a glimpse at the endless rows of empty outfield seats before hitting the fielder's glove. In 2010, Sun Life Stadium was a weird one. As well as being the home of the Marlins, it was also a football stadium for the Dolphins. The result was a stadium with far too many seats for an 162-game baseball season. The ineloquent solution to this was either blocking out sections of outfield seats, covering them in advertisements, or just learning to be okay with a vast expanse of unused armrests in the outfield. They chose the latter. The result is a baseball experience with an eerie, liminal feel, and, in many ways, it's just sadder than having a small stadium. Particularly in sports, little, if anything, continues forever, and the same can be said for pitching. Injuries are practically a prerequisite for tossing the ball in the majors. For almost every pitcher, no matter how durable, tears, wounds, cuts, and bruises are inevitable. The problem is, for the athlete, how does one deal with not only the setback, but also the pain? A lot of guys take up painkillers. Few things are more relieving. Perhaps that's what makes them so dangerous. At some point, Roy Halladay became addicted to painkillers. I'll let that sit. On November 7th, 2017, at just the age of 40, Halladay fatally crashed his plane into the Gulf of Mexico. He succumbed to something, whether it was an unlucky day amidst the suffocating Floridian air, depression, or painkillers, it is unclear. It's hard not to conflate Halladay's on-field persona with whomever he was in private. It's too fast to look at the quiet, desolate anxiety of the mound and the loneliness someone must endure to dominate it and say, that's what drove them crazy. It's hard not to imagine a soundtrack of Radiohead's saddest hits as Roy's plane falls out of the sky and inches closer and closer to an endless field of blue. In parallel, we tend to romanticize the life of the seemingly otherworldly. The bottom line is, Halladay didn't fly too close to the sun or wear down his psyche by mastering the cruel precision one needs to take the mound. We are not Roy Halladay. We are only onlookers. A perfect game awaits. In the 9th, Halladay remains on the bump, 3 outs from perfection. If done, it would be a moment in history, a moment whose setting clashes with its importance and randomness seems almost cruel. Nobody signed up to watch history in Miami, but history is what looms, and perhaps what they should have expected. See, I haven't exactly explained it yet, but I think, in a way, watching someone like Halladay is awfully similar to viewing a great work of art. In like manner, I'm reminded of when I first laid eyes on Botticelli's The Birth of Venus, how the world melted away. I was taken aback by the piece's powerful color, the delicate curves of Venus's soft orange hair, the subtlety of her innocence, and the beauty for which she appeared to wholeheartedly embody. In the presence of artwork like that, I suppose most are taken over by an indistinct feeling of euphoria. The brushstrokes transcend the canvas and evoke a rare sense of total fulfillment. It's a quiet revelation, the realization that right in front of you, the dimensions of the canvas are bridging the boundary between the limits of human capability and divine talent. I guess that's what that indistinct feeling is, divine intervention. When you're in the presence of a Botticelli, or witnessing Roy Halladay toss a perfect game, the cloudy skies seem to clear, and, for a brief moment, open a portal to sensations that only some form of divinity could offer. Whatever or whoever God is, for that moment, Halladay seems to take the form. Simultaneously, Roy Halladay is not God. If anything, he teaches us more about being human. It's a scary thought that even the most talented struggle with all the things we mortals struggle with. It's scary that watching Roy Halladay pitch is not actually a form of divine intervention, but rather an experience that opens the gate to the false and vast expanse of our imagination. It is we onlookers who project our own sensations and wants onto the idol, not the other way around. While the sentiment that nobody is perfect may be obvious, there's something really crushing in the realization of that. The fact that the closest things we have to divinity are as human as ourselves. Fleeting. Just a few days before his death, Halladay was seen flying, not a normal kind of aviation, but impaired, reckless sort. Spectators watched Halladay's plane repeatedly soar down to the ground, only to be followed by a jerk and a rapid gain in altitude. It was an unsolicited airshow from a man who seemingly cared little for his life, a far cry from the calm, stoic, and cool-headed Halladay of the Mound. To be frank, without knowing the real Halladay, I feel a little trapped in depicting who he was. I don't want to put him in a box, but as with every story, in some way, you end up doing that. To me, Halladay seems to have been a guy with astronomical highs and crushing lows. The question I ask is, how does one depict those moments in a way that pans out, eventually forming the real outline of who the guy was? In retrospect, it's an obnoxious sentiment that a good piece discussing an artist has to meet that person at their peak, because if you meet that person at their peak, you should feel obligated to meet them at their lowest valley. And if you've never experienced either of them, trying to one-up those vulnerable moments will not only fail, but be deeply disingenuous. You're left with your perspective, and it's that lens I'm trying to write through. Roy Halladay stands 1 out away. He looks at home plate with uncertainty, as if, for a moment, he remembers he's human. In this instance, though, he bears his complex mix of emotions and locks into his own world, one that we're not invited in to describe. Perhaps that's it. Maybe a writer's best way to describe a guy like Halladay is to just let the moment breathe.
Hit toward third. Castro has it. Spins. Fires. A perfect game! Roy Halladay has thrown the second perfect game in Philadelphia Phillies history. He faces 27 batters. He retires all 27.
Halladay embraces his teammates, and in that moment, he's not a Philly. He's not a Blue Jay. He's not a husband or a father or an addict. In that moment, Roy Halladay is immortal. Perfection is something that only exists through practice. The 4 versions of Hokusai's The Great Wave off Kanagawa, the 21 versions of Van Gogh's Starry Night. It's that which renders a perfect game a particularly incredible achievement. To accomplish something in the moment that is perfect in our imperfect world is, to me, as close to divinity as I need.